Remember, just because you can't see something doesn't mean that it's not there. Aloha friends, this is Brendan and you're about to watch my heart-opening, mind-expanding, conscious movie review for Pete's Dragon. So to get right into this is a very consciousness shifting movie that I really recommend you guys go see. I thoroughly enjoyed it. There's a lot of magic in it. There's a lot of heart-opening experiences. There's a lot to this movie, plenty of consciousness shifting themes, and it will leave your soul feeling inspired.
You're very brave. Did you know that? You might be the bravest boy I've ever met.
So for those of you who may be new to my channel, part of the reason behind doing these videos is the idea that through the magic of movies, through the magic of the Hollywood wand and the silver screen, the universe is doing what it can, consciousness is doing what it can to help wake itself up by planting in these themes into stories that are helping us think more about this reality a little bit differently, that are helping us shift paradigms, that are helping us see more of what's hidden in plain sight. So I'm going to do my best to really leave out any spoilers so that you guys can watch this review and go into it and still enjoy this movie. So the quick plot synopsis of Pete's Dragon is the story of young Pete. Back in the day, he was driving through the woods with his parents, yet there's an unfortunate car accident, leaving Pete stranded in the woods all by himself. Yet soon he realizes that he is not alone as he finds himself in the company of the dragon, who Pete soon names Elliott, and then flash forward 6 years later, Pete and Elliott are doing their thing, living their adventure, yet it is not long until they cross paths with other humans. From there, all sorts of things unfold, questions are asked, tensions rise, adventure begins, and through it we have this incredible story of family, of magic, and of love. So as I said, there's a lot of consciousness shifting themes within this movie. Of course, there is the concept of dragons. Are dragons a real thing or not? ... question mark. We'll get into that. But one of the things that I really liked about this movie was the characters, and in particular there's the character of Grace's father, played by Robert Redford, and he's a very interesting character because it begins with him talking about a story about how he saw a dragon back in his youth some 25 years ago. So he's been living with this story, yet not everyone believes him, yet he knows what he saw.
I have never seen a dragon.
Well, just because you don't see something doesn't mean it's not there.
So Grace herself doesn't necessarily believe her father, and yet as the story unfolds and Elliott comes into the scene and word arises of this boy and his dragon, suddenly you see like the spark light up in her father's eyes, and then it leads up to this moment where basically they themselves see the dragon for the first time. And they talk about, Robert Redford says, you know, his character says, like, you feel the magic in that moment. And if you go into this scene really like embodying yourself into the characters on screen and going through what they're experiencing, the best way I can describe it is that that moment when they see the dragon is so psychedelic. Like, and by psychedelic, I mean you're seeing the awe, you're awakening to the magic. It's right there in front of you. It is unavoidable. And so in that moment, it was just like one of my favorite parts of the movie. And again, this isn't really a spoiler, it really just like allowing you to know that that point's coming and really be there, show up in that moment.
What did I tell you? Magic.
For you, the viewer, to be in there, it provides you with a visceral experience. And again, that's why movies are so important, because it's not just about like the ideas that they present to you, it's about the experiences that they can bring you into. And so it is even Robert Redford's character himself that says, just because you can't see something doesn't mean that it's not there. So I mean, when we're talking about what he's talking about within the context of this movie, we're talking about dragons, but we're also talking about, and he says this in the movie, about like this like awakening to a bigger perception of reality and realizing that there actually is magic within this world. So again, you know, when we're talking about the concept of dragons, it's great for an on-screen story, yet is there perhaps something more to this? A lot of people will tell you from their own experiences that yes, things like dragons, things like other quasi-dimensional entities, things like gnomes and elves and fairies are actually a part of this reality. They may just not be on the same quote-unquote dimension, yet they themselves are various forms in which consciousness can experience itself through. And so with the character of Elliott, the dragon, he's amazing. I love him. And what you see within the character is that it is obvious that he is very intelligent. And it's really cool because you get the characteristics of a dog-like animal through Elliott, and you have like all of these just like base emotions of loyalty and compassion and playfulness, and it was so cool to be able to again put yourself in the experience of Pete playing alongside with this dragon. And so for anybody who's like have dogs in their family, who have had dogs in their family, for me watching this movie was just like, oh, like feeling the feels, you know, you just, oh, it was so powerful, it was so palpable. And what I really liked about Elliott's character is that if you're paying attention, you kind of catch this, and there's one moment where Elliott and Pete are sitting up on a cliff and they're looking up at the stars, and you see the way Elliott is looking into the stars, and for me it just sort of made me think of this idea of just like, you know, like, because he doesn't say anything, not through like vocal dialogue, he makes noises and stuff, and he's like telepathic, but it's just like, I wonder if that's kind of alluding to this idea that dragons in themselves are perhaps from other planets. And you know, like that's part of the story, is that they have been here on Earth in the past and perhaps even are still here now, yet their home is rooted in like other parts of the galaxy. So him like looking up the stars is like him like looking home. In the same way, we as humans can also find our home amongst the stars too, when you get to this other idea that perhaps humans weren't just like originated on Earth as well. And so another cool thing about Elliott is the idea that he has this camouflage ability. He has this ability to not even just like, it's not so like, it's really not so much of just like disguising himself like his surrounding. He literally goes invisible. He literally has this like hyper advanced awareness of like how to shift himself just into a place where to us it appears invisible, yet it's also kind of him like phasing through dimensions, if you want to think about it that way. And so for me, this connects the dots in some very interesting ways with some very shifty themes related to ideas such as our good friend the elusive Sasquatch. And so a lot of people will just like hear us talking about Sasquatch and just be like, oh, you've gone too far. But for me, Sasquatch is like the key, and Sasquatch and Elliott are kind of like in that same area, with the ability that maybe Sasquatch isn't just this physical entity, but actually is more of a quasi-dimensional being that can kind of phase in and out of dimensions. So we see that in some ways with Elliott, with his ability to sort of go invisible. And so I thought that was like really cool. And again, it just opens us up to the idea and encouraging guys to think for yourself that maybe there is more to this reality than meets the eye. Maybe there are actually other intelligent, sentient, conscious entities that exist on varying degrees of dimensions that actually live amongst us and perhaps even in the same space as us, yet we don't always see them because they're not always phased into our dimension. So this movie is in some ways planting those seeds to allow people to just like open their mind to that magic, that there is more to this reality than meets the eye. It's not just the physical, there's more to it. And that is like such a beautiful idea. And so another really powerful consciousness shifting theme within this movie is what you see through the eyes, what you see through the eyes of Elliott. And for me, this always goes back to this idea that whether it be dragon, whether it be dog, whether it be cat, whether it be anything, when we see the eyes, we see ourselves, we see consciousness, we see spirit existing in the many different forms that it can exist within. It really brought back this idea of unity, and it really brought back this idea of a collective intelligence throughout all aspects of creation within this reality. It really goes back to this core, simple, yet prolific idea that we are all one, and that we are all connected, and that in itself is the core of the magic. And so of course, when we're talking about dragons, one of the themes that we can touch upon, if you really want to get esoteric, is the symbolism of the dragon and the symbolism of the serpent, which a lot of people can relate to this idea of spiritual awakening, kundalini rising, that idea of the knowledge of the serpent, that energy moving up the spine and connecting us into an awareness of our higher selves. So I mean, the fact that it's a dragon is this idea that, you know, the dragon symbolically has always sort of been trying to be a teacher and a guide for us to see more of the magic that is already inside of us. There's a lot of cool themes in this movie that really tap into this theme of adventure and how adventure brings out bravery. And there's parts in this movie where like I pretty much cried during this movie. Like I was like, it was like very close to crying. I actually like cried a little bit afterwards when I was thinking about it and telling my mom about it. But like there's like some parts where like you just feel so much of what Pete is going through, and Pete, like, you know, just because of like how he grew up in the woods, his dialogue's a little bit different, so he often howls. And there's like some parts when he's like howling, and then I was just like, for me, I was just like, oh, like I can relate. I can relate to stuff. So it was like really, it was such a visceral experience watching this movie. And again, like that's why I think it's powerful, because it allows us to experience this movie through the heart. And it's like, oh man, like movies like this, they're not just like something cool to watch, they're reality simulations, and you can watch them in the same way you experience a dream, and you can invite that experience into yourself. And this movie does an awesome job of bringing in themes of being brave, of being able to be brave enough to look at the world for the magic it is, and to be able to like follow your intuition and to follow the magic, and to know that like family is such a key thing along this journey. And so yes, it's beautiful. And so again, honestly, like some of the really good conversation in this movie is between Grace and her father. He's seen stuff, he knows what's there, yet he can't see it for her. Yet all he can do is invite her to be open to looking, which I think is a big part within this shift in consciousness that's happening right now, is that a lot of people have awoken to the magic around them. Yet it's kind of like the Matrix, like you can't be told what it is, you can only see it for yourself. Yet the magic is there, it's hidden in plain sight. And he even says in the movie, you know, like since awakening to it, he sees the trees different, he sees the sunrise as being different, he sees his connection to her as being different. So for me, that is synonymous to awakening more to our multidimensional reality, awakening to the bigger picture, awakening to our interconnectedness, and as I mentioned, awakening to the magic that is very real and very pertinent and consistent and just like everywhere in this reality. So be open to looking for it, and you will see it. And so one idea that I really just want to share with you guys, for those of you who know of the magic, for those of you who are constantly awakening to the magic, for me, it brings it back to this message of carrying the magic with us, of being the bridge between these bigger ideas of the magic and bringing it and grounding it into more of our everyday lives and into culture further, and inviting others to awaken to the magic that is all around them. So be the magic, be the bridge, be the love. So in conclusion, yes, this is a great movie that I highly recommend you guys go seeing. Go watch it as a meditation. Allow yourself to feel the feels while watching this movie. Let it fuel your spirit. Let it spark your soul. Let it encourage you to awaken to more of the magic that is in the world all around us. And let it encourage you to see with sight beyond sight. This is a great movie. The team behind it, you guys did an amazing job. So huge shout out. And as always, for you guys, leave your thoughts and comments below. Like this video, subscribe to this channel. Let me know if you saw the movie, what your experience was watching this. And as always, thank you guys so much. I love you, and the magic is and always has been very real. See you guys in the future. Keep it shifty. One love. Peace.
Is Elliott a person?
No, he looks like a dragon. What's a dragon? That's a dragon.
You don't have to run anymore, Pete. You can stay with us.
This thing is dangerous.
I don't want to leave you, but he'll come looking for you. What's gonna happen to Elliott?
You have no idea what this thing is capable of. Let's go hunting.
very brave. Did you know that? You might be the bravest boy I've ever met.
There's magic in the woods, if you know where to look for it.